Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session that is part of the learning series, Exploring Innovative Pathways for Agri-Food Systems Transformation to Advance the Sustainable Development Goals. It is a learning series organized by 4 co-hosts from across FAO, the Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Division, the Development Law Service, the Governance and Policy Support Unit, and the Office of the SDGs. My name is Laura De Matteis. I am an Agri-Food Systems expert working at the Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Unit, and I will be your moderator for this first session today that is focused on governance mechanisms and their transformative impact in agri-food systems. So it's very good to see so many of you connected. I'll repeat a couple of housekeeping reminders that I already started to give to all those that connected earlier on. So the fact that this session is being recorded, that there is interpretation available to the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen in English, Spanish, or Portuguese, and that we would invite you to keep your videos on to make this session as much as possible engaging, but please keep the microphones muted until you are given the floor. You will already see that we have a chat box where you can share relevant materials, ask questions to the organizers as need be, and also there is a Q&A functionality at the bottom of the Zoom screen that you can use to pose questions to the speakers, to the discussants. And we will select some sections in the following segment that is for open debate. So without further ado, let me pass the floor to Corinna Hawkes, Director of the Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Division at FAO, for her opening remarks and setting the scene. Corinna, over to you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Laura. And welcome to you all. I'd like to add my welcome to Laura's to this governance learning series. Initially, just by the way of background, this series was sparked by the call for submissions launched by FAO through the Food and Security and Nutrition Forum on how can FAO better support countries in addressing governance for agri-food systems transformation. And the response to the call was excellent, 88 contributions from diverse stakeholders in all regions of the world. And what these responses provided was examples of tangible experience about how countries and how stakeholders are actually approaching food and agriculture related policies and governance interventions in a much more systemic way, rather than isolated actions. But how they're approaching it more as a system towards a common goal. So this is going to help us as FAO and our partners to continue to learn from these experiences of countries and their lived experience in actually trying to overcome and navigate real challenges in their own context through working more systemically. So the series is going to involve 3 virtual learning events, exploring 9 case studies on the role of governance on steering transformation of agri-food systems towards food security and nutrition for all and the SDGs. Now, we're calling them virtual learning events. And that terminology is used for a reason, because these events are aimed at facilitating collective learning by exposing FAO colleagues as well as other partners joining to knowledge sharing and peer-to-peer exchange based on our experiences, our perspectives, and approaches in policy, law, and governance. And we know from the work that we've done on learning that it is these learning processes that really help us expand our mindsets and support and provide a sense of openness to new ways of thinking and working for agri-food systems transformation. It's a process of encouraging reflection on concrete ways in which we can address governance challenges to foster adaptation and reflecting on actionable insights and successful interventions. And there's going to be a brief evaluation of these virtual learning events, which will reflect these goals. So please do, if you can, spend a couple of minutes in responding to that evaluation. So let's move on to governance, which is the topic. And FAO defines governance as a multidimensional capability for effective and inclusive collective action on a broad range of public and private actors across the agri-food systems, each of whom bring distinct interests, needs, resources, influence, and capacities. So it is bringing this capability, and we're going to focus particularly, because we're talking about agri-food systems transformation, on the way that governance can help build relationships. So why is governance so vital for changing our agri-food systems? I'd like to share with you a brief experience of when I was collaborating a few years ago on a piece of work with a health agency designed to improve nutrition in a rural community. Now, by engaging with that community in this piece of work, we learned that while many low-income households had backyard gardens, the quantity of the food and vegetables that was being produced was not sufficient. And they relied on a market that was 2 hours away by bus to access rice and to find vegetables they could afford. And now the roads were poor quality, there was increasing disruption of transportation from climate change events, so accessing the market was becoming more and more difficult. Families were becoming more food insecure and eating less diverse diets. But that was on the health side. At the same time, the Department of Agriculture was launching a farm to market roads programme designed to support farmer viability in livelihoods through connecting them with retail markets. It's a great initiative, but that connection hadn't been made. How could that roads programme that was designed to help farmers also help to support consumers in the goal of food security and better diets for consumers? And I remember thinking at the time, just imagine if the efforts of those agencies had been connected. They would have been more responsive to the needs of rural community facing challenges, both from a consumer and from a producer perspective, and thinking about connecting the two. So it's this building of stronger relationships that connect people, policies and resources that would have enabled agri-food systems to deliver more and ultimately to be far more efficient in terms of the allocation of resources. So this is why governance, I mean, many reasons why governance is so important. But this process that enables and strengthens relationships to deliver collective action between the different actors to deliver what agri-food systems are meant to be delivering: safe, nutritious food for all, while supporting the people who produce and consume, while also protecting nature. So that's where governance is often the missing link, and thus the need for the intentional focus on governance. So this learning series presents cases where those relationships have been made stronger, learning from the lived experience of different countries and subnational entities, where relationships have been strengthened, they have been modified to steer agri-food systems toward better nutrition, better environment, better life and better production, without progress in one area coming at the expense of another. So governance is a core part of what we term the systems approach to agri-food systems transformation. We know it's not easy. Any of you, and I'm sure it's most of you on this webinar, has ever been involved in establishing governance, knows that it involves competing priorities, limiting resources, power imbalances and conflicting mandates. And navigating these trade-offs and building synergies require inclusive and participatory governance, and these structures and processes that enable negotiation, coalition building and accountability. And that requires trust and compromise. So we know it's challenging, and that's another reason why we want to highlight examples of countries who have actually managed to navigate these challenges to come up with a result. So we're going to hear from Argentina, Zavala's agroecological transition, showing that building smarter, stronger relationships is what makes transformative change practical and achievable, demonstrating the role of political will, cross-sectoral dialogue, and the importance of considering diverse interests and agendas with a shared directionality, very important. The Alimenta Cidades program in Brazil brings to life the principle that we need to start with what's strong and not what's wrong to make this happen, by using diagnostic to identify the successful local efforts implemented by cities and then building on those strengths. And in Ethiopia, the Sokoto Declaration, showing how a phased approach and robust monitoring and evaluation enables ongoing learning, which is such a vital part of governance towards transformation, and then reshaping those relationships through multi-sectoral collaboration to provide an enabling environment for reductions in stunting in children under 2. So I'm really excited to hear these specific examples. I will now hand back to Laura.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinna, for helping us frame the conversation and give a bit of an idea of why are we here today, why is governance really key for agri-food systems transformation. And as you reminded us all, this is the first of a three-part learning series. There will be two more following at the end of May and then the end of June. So everyone will receive the needed information in due time. And what I wanted to stress is really how this session will build, where are structured in order to build on three cases each time, three experiences out of those that responded to the call for proposal published by the FSN Forum, but also to build this collective learning element through a second segment that will focus on learning from also other experiences in the room. So we really invite all the whole audience, all the participants today to prompt further reflections, to provoke new insights, to share more experiences, and what the three, let's say, anchor experiences are really like inspiring new thinking, new ways of working compared to what they do in their context and the governance mechanism they already adopt in their context. So today I'm delighted to kick off this series with four speakers that will be talking about Argentina, Brazil, and Ethiopia. And they come from a wide variety of perspectives and a wide variety of scales. So we will have someone sharing from their experience in an urban and peri-urban context to a national coverage of a network of cities until till reaching a nationwide program. So this really gives us a sense of the, let's say, the multifaceted experiences that are out there and from which we can all learn from within FAO and with all the partners that are available present today. So our first focus experience will be, as we heard, the town of Zavaja in Argentina. Let me introduce Mr. Guillermo Rajmil, who is the mayor or the president of the Zavaja commune. He is serving there his fifth term. And he's also a food producer and a medical doctor. And he served as an undersecretary of health for the Ministry of Health in the province of Santa Fe. So he really brings this health lens to his political mandate. And this is part of one of the ingredients, let's say, of bringing forward these systemic approaches. Mr. Guillermo, when we were discussing your experience, a key peculiarity that emerges that the fact that you set a vision to institutionalize agroecology transformation. And to do so, then you devised a set of actions that include also governance mechanisms like ordinances and multi-sectoral dialogue. So I would like you to really tell us about why the engagement of multiple sectors and multiple actors in this governance process was key, was instrumental to agroecology and to the social transformation as well in Zavaja. You have around 8 minutes and the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. Bueno, lo nuestro es un proceso que empezó en el 2015 a través de una ley que prohibía las aplicaciones de agroquímicos en los 800 metros del periurbano. Con muchos conflictos sociales entre los productores, la población. Zavalle es una localidad con mucho crecimiento porque está en la cercanía de Rosario, que es una gran ciudad, y con mucho crecimiento urbano. Entonces se generó ese conflicto social con marchas, desde un lado, desde el otro, desde los agroecologistas. Cuando nosotros comenzamos, empezamos con un diálogo que fue lo principal, que fue primero hablar con la comunidad, entender la
talking first to the community to understand what the problem really was. And we needed to understand that we had to undergo a transition. We talked to the agroecologists so that together we could work in the process of transforming that urban area which was not producing into a mechanism that produced healthy foods, and also having locally an identification of the people through a brand, through an agroecological process. And we also worked with the farmers. We had presentations and discussions and debates, as well as seminars that were held in order to help them to transform this into an agroecological process. And guidelines were set. One of the first guidelines was establishing that the regulations and the dispositions needed to be complied with. And we put together a process for that. And we had an agricultural engineer. We worked with the School of Agriculture in order to have the right certification, in order to make sure that it was an agroecological process. And then we created a way of measuring these and also establishing a certain fee that allowed us to have a system. And we had an interesting dialogue established with the farmers. They showed us the cost, they showed us their problems, and we were able to transform a peri-urban area into something that became sustainable and profitable, because in the end the process has got to become profitable so that the farmers and the producers can continue producing in this peri-urban land. So with the money that we were collecting, we were able to establish different local programs. The one that's most interesting and is most developed now is establishing a flour mill that can process 10 tons of wheat on a daily basis. And we created a brand called Masavia, and the mill is already organically certified, able and enabled for the production. So this is this is flour that is traded locally, and it's present in all the different stores, supermarkets and grocery markets in our region, that is to say in Zavalla and also in the city of Rosario. And that has helped us to create one common objective, having a whole community that is proud with a process that is absolutely real and tangible, with people working, and that can have healthy food at a low cost or similar cost to other products. And the consumer in the supermarket shelves can choose either by price or by healthy features, food that is local and that is at a reasonable price. So in our community, we have the four preparations that can be used in the peri-urban area. We have created a farm. We've also got the university helping and working with us. We have created, therefore, a circular economy, and all of the bio-preparation foods are bought by the farmers and are applied. We have also seen an agroecological preparation. The community has been helping us in all the process, and we have all the certifications implemented. And we have also analyzed the production of the food that have the best food quality, and it's higher in terms when compared against other traditional. It has the an appropriate amount of iron, for example, as per established by the law, and it's healthy food. And the other thing that we have been able to achieve is avoiding conflicts. There are no conflicts between farmers and production and the cities and the usage of chemicals or non-chemicals. So currently, we are in the middle of the wet Argentinian pampa, and we have an area free of conflicts, and we are supporting all of the process with the different producers and farmers. We also give a certain reimbursement and benefits to some producers who comply with certain requirements. And one of the important things is having learned from some of the experiences and some from the failures that we face least at the beginning. At some point in time, we wanted to create an agroecological peri-urban vegetable orchards, and it wasn't successful because this is not an area where vegetables grew. So the work was very complicated. We needed to transform the farmers and we needed to change their mindset too. So when we went into the different crops and the different products that the farmers were acquainted with, and when we started working, we needed to make sure that they were confident that they knew what they were doing. And we looked at then which were the crops that they were acquainted with that gave a good result. And now we've certified that wheat has a performance that is higher when compared against a traditional farming. We've also got a good performance curve for corn, and it has a very good cash flow. We are providing profits in the end. We've also have experiences with alfalfa. We are currently undergoing the certification of an agroecological alfalfa production. We also have sunflower data. We're still missing, or currently is not yet profitable, is the soybean. But we're working on that. And this is part of the outcome when having worked with the producers. When there is a peri-urban piece of land that is not being used, the community is now renting it, leasing it, in trying to get it into production. Because the idea is having sustainable production, healthy food in a healthy environment. And some of the agreements is that these healthy food are also given to the needed as part of the food basket. We provide healthy food with local certification. This is the commitment that the farmers enter into. And now we're giving, for example, spaghettis, pastas, pizza, prep pizza, all agroecological foods that are delivered among the families. And we therefore have then community work that is quite harmonic, and in this harmony we are constantly improving in our production, in the trading. And my advice to all of you, to the intendants and mayors, is precisely to do it this way, to work in harmony, not to be discussing all the time, but to try and work in harmony, in agreement, to improve the processes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Guillermo, for really identifying some of the key points that I wanted to just reflect how you started with a conflict that was caused by this law that introduced a prohibition on agrochemicals, and then through a series of interventions, a series of dialogues to understand the perspective of the farmers, but also ordinances, taxation, benefits that could reimburse the farmers to come towards the transformation to agroecology, you really reach the point of now having this harmonic community, like you define it. So I think it's important what you said also, to start from understanding what is not working, what are our mistakes, and learn from that. And with the community is really at the center of your example. And I want to go a little deeper now into this example with Professor Griselda, who is a researcher, a research professor at the University of Rosario. You mentioned the agricultural school, Mr. Guillermo, you mentioned how you work with them for the certification. And I know that Professor Griselda is also familiar with the city network, with the environmentalist group in Argentina. So I'm just wondering, what did you notice, since you know all of these other processes that are happening also beyond Zavaja? What did you notice were the key enabling factors in Zavaja to really navigate all this interest. Of course, the farmers were not happy with the changes at the in the first moment, but then now they are working in harmony with the flour producers, with the rest of the community. Over to you, Professor Griselda, a couple, maybe 5 minutes, and then of course we will have time to go deeper into your expertise in the debate as well. Thank you.
Bueno, muy buenos días.
Well, good morning from Argentina, and thank you for FAO for having invited me in this learning virtual seminar, which is very, very fruitful. Now, here, on behalf of the School of Agricultural Sciences at the National University of Rosario, and also the Agroecology Society of Argentina, where I'm currently working as a secretary, I would like to share with you that for us, it has been absolutely critical to carry out a piece of research that we have called it as participatory action. That is to say, teachers, researchers, students involved with the rest of the stakeholders in the Savaya case, as we have called it. So the professors, the faculty, the researchers, and the students have permanently been working with, not for, with the community of Savaya. Not only with the management aspect of it, with Dr. Guillermo Rajmil, we fully agree everything that he has said, and we reaffirm all of his statements, but also with the agroecology network in Argentina, RENAMA, also that promotes agroecology, with the Genesis Ecologist group, and also with the National Directory of Agroecology, which unfortunately did not last very long because it was created at a national level and is no longer in operation with this new government. But all of these network, all of these relationships that were established allowed for us in our research to be able to identify one key component, one key factor, not only to drive these local agri-food, agroecological system, but also for it to be able to be sustained in time. This is what we have called a real human conviction behind it. When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the human values. Well, values like respect, solidarity, patience, understanding, gratitude, kindness, also emotions too. Sometimes we're running behind effectiveness and we forget that we need to show all of these values before all of our other human beings. This all hand in hand with human ethics, trying to transform this agri-food system with a full ethical approach, trying to find equity and justice. Those human values, that professional ethics, which for me are the basis of humans, is not only present in education and in culture, but also they are built throughout the daily activities. And this is precisely what for me has been a key element within the larger system. I mean, aside from the regulations, from the processes, from the larger complex machinery, this is one key essential element. And I believe that a clear example of these examples and these ethics, at least for our research in our region, has been how, or rather, the attitude of the Genesis ecological group when faced against these transformation proposal, because oftentimes social movements where the predominating model is agro-exporting, social movements tend to have very conflictive attitudes, very head-on behaviors that do not really promote dialogue. But here, the Genesis agroecological group was open towards dialogue. It had a very good predisposition in trying to analyze the complexities and trying to really contribute into finding solutions, as Guillermo has said, to try and make it out of this conflictive situation and moving into a agro system that, at least for the Savaya community, ended up being very, very beneficial, because it allows many citizens to have access to healthy and nutritious food at a fair price. So, in closing my contribution, I believe that one key factor in order to promote, but also to sustain a transformation such as this one, is that the stakeholders can first consider the common good rather than their personal benefits. And this is critical in order to build this larger network and this social fabric that is necessary in order to attain a sustainable and deep transformation in time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Griselda, for this reminder that the importance of not only to run, actually, not. I think because I asked you about an enabling factor, so really what you're saying that what enabled the program to be effective, to be successful, is the attention posed to the values, to human values, to working with the actors, not for the actors, and to find solutions through dialogue. And this last reminder on the common good really resonates with what Guillermo was saying, that the common objective was to make the community proud. So I'm seeing really here how the laws, the ordinances, the taxation are working for and with the community, as you are saying. So not only for the community, but also with the community together. So it's kind of what I'm sensing is more of a, let's say, bottom-up approach, maybe to devising these new governance mechanisms. Thank you very much. I'm sure there will be questions and further inputs from our audience later on, but let's now move to the second focus experience of today, which is coming from Brazil, and I would like to see if Ms. Kiliani Fuscaldi is with us. She has been working on because we were doing the test at the beginning, and yes, she's with us. Perfect. Good morning, Kiliani.
Bom dia.
Buenos dias. So I was saying that Ms. Kiliani Fuscaldi has worked for the Brazilian federal government for 25 years and currently is an analyst at the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, on secondment to the Ministry of Social Development, where she's coordinating the urban and peri-urban agriculture work. So I think a lot of what you do resonates with the experience of Savaya, and it's great actually to build on that first experience. So in the Ministry of Social Development, you are now overseeing the national strategy for food and nutritional security in cities, which is also known as Alimenta Cidades. This Alimenta Cidades strategy promotes cross-sectoral collaboration. It aims to address multiple challenges to food and nutrition security across 60 cities, covering 60 million people. It's a recently launched initiative, but already I believe you can identify some conditions for success. So I would like you to talk to us today about the conditions for success and how you are navigating the inevitable challenges that emerge from such an ambitious strategy. You have 8 to 10 minutes and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Bom dia a todos e todas. Em nome do Ministério do
Good morning,
Desenvolvimento e Assistência
everyone.
Social, Família e Combate à Fome,
On behalf of
agradeço a
the Ministry
oportunidade
of
de participar da série de aprendizagem
Social
e de
Family,
contribuir a partir da apresentação do
Ministry,
sistema de
it's a pleasure to be
governança
here
que
to
está sendo
contribute
implementado no Brasil para
on the
ampliar a
governance system we've
produção,
been
o
implementing in Brazil to
acesso, a
expand
disponibilidade e o
production
consumo de alimentos
access,
adequados e saudáveis,
availability, and
priorizando
consumption
territórios
of
periféricos e
healthy and
urbanos
adequate
e
food,
também as
with a
populações em
emphasis
situação
on
de
urban and
vulnerabilidade e risco
peri-urban
social.
and a
Minha
vulnerable
fala será
population.
dividida em 4 partes. A primeira abordará o contexto de
My
criação da
presentation is broken
estratégia
down into
Alimenta
4.
Cidades. A
First is the
segunda
context of
pontuará
Alimenta
sua relação
Cidades.
com o Sistema
Second
Nacional de
part,
Segurança Alimentar e
it's
Nutricional,
how it
conhecido como
relates
CISAM.
to
A
the national
terceira
system of
demonstrará o que foi
food
construído
and
até o
nutritional
presente momento.
security,
E, por fim,
and
na quarta
show
sessão,
what
serão
we've been done
apresentadas
so
as ações
far.
futuras, os
And
principais
last but not
desafios e as
least,
condições
future actions
identificadas
and
até o
main
presente momento
challenges
para o sucesso dessa iniciativa.
and the
A
conditions
estratégia
so
Alimenta
far
Cidades, ela foi
identified as
concebida em
success factors. This
2023,
Alimenta
considerando que naquele
Cidades
momento
was
85%
established in
da população brasileira residia
1923.
nas cidades,
Back then, 85% of the population
80,5% dos domicílios do Cadastro Único, que é a ferramenta do governo federal para identificar as famílias
was
de baixa
part of the
renda e
census
entender suas condições de vida,
numbers, which is the
estavam
tool we
situados na área
use to
urbana
identify
e também
low-income families.
dos 8,7
These were
milhões de
located in the
pessoas em
urban
segurança
and
alimentar grave, 7
area,
milhões
and 8.7
encontravam-se nas
million
cidades.
people were
Então,
in
a
food and
cidade
severe
ela
food
precisava de
insecurity.
olhar, diferente.
7 millions
Além disso,
were
57%
living
da
in the
população
cities. So
brasileira
cities
estava
actually required
concentrada
a
em
special
apenas
view. 57% of
319
the Brazilian
cidades. E
population
no
was
Brasil, nós temos
focused
mais
on
de 5 mil
319
municípios.
cities.
Então, isso
In Brazil, we
revela
have
uma
over
alta participação
5,000
populacional.
municipalities,
Destaca-se
which
que a população
shows
das grandes
a
cidades,
high
em especial a
population
população das regiões
concentration.
periféricas,
Big
sofre
cities
com o ambiente
population,
alimentar
particularly
que
in the
favorece o
peripheral
consumo de
areas,
alimentos
suffer
ultraprocessados e de baixa qualidade
of
nutricional,
agri-food
já que a
system
produção e a
that
distribuição de
are
alimentos
expose
nas
them
áreas
to
urbanas são marcadas
ultra-processed
por
food.
cadeias
The
longas e complexas,
distribution and production
dificultando o
of
acesso a
food
alimentos frescos e
have to
saudáveis.
go through very
Por
long
fim, não
supply
podemos
chains,
deixar de
which
mencionar que as áreas
challenge the
urbanas são
access
as
to
áreas
fresh and
mais
healthy
impactadas pelas
food
mudanças
products.
climáticas,
Urban areas
porque as
also
pessoas
are
que moram
those
nas
suffering the most
periferias das
impact of climate
cidades,
change, and
principalmente das
people
grandes
living
cidades,
in the
têm 15
urban
vezes mais
peripheries,
chance de morrer em
especially
decorrência
the
de
big cities,
eventos
have
climáticos extremos.
15 times
A
more
estratégia
chances
Alimenta
to
Cidades foi então concebida dentro de um novo ciclo
die
de
due
políticas
to
públicas.
extreme
O foco
climate
na agenda
events.
alimentar urbana e
Alimenta Cidade is
estruturada no
based on a new
contexto do
cycle of
Sistema
public
Nacional de
policies
Segurança Alimentar e
structured
Nutricional, o
around
CISAM.
the
O
national
CISAM
system of
visa a
food,
garantia do
urban
direito
food
à alimentação
security,
adequada e
so-called
saudável
CSUM.
para toda a
CSUM
população
will
brasileira,
guarantee the
sendo
right to
composto por
healthy
diversas
food to the whole
políticas,
Brazilian
programas
population,
e ações que
with
envolvem
several
diferentes esferas do
policies,
governo,
programs, and
sociedade
actions
civil
involving
e organizações não
multiple
governamentais.
parts of the
Neste
government, civil
sistema, a
society,
intersetorialidade é
NGOs.
princípio fundamental.
Intersectoriality
Desenvolve a
here,
colaboração entre
it's a
diferentes áreas, como
cornerstone
saúde, economia,
because
educação, agricultura e assistência social.
means the joint
O
work of
CISAM,
different areas,
ele é
economics,
composto por
education,
3 eixos.
social
O
assistance.
primeiro, a Câmara
CSAM has
Interministerial de
three main
Segurança Alimentar
axes:
e Nutricional,
the
conhecida como
Interministry Chamber
CAISAM,
of Food
que é
Security and
colegiado
Nutrition,
de natureza consultiva,
the
com
TAISAN,
representação majoritária de entes
it's
públicos.
a
O
consultative
segundo, o Conselho de
organization with the
Segurança Alimentar e Nutricional,
public
que é o
organizations,
CONSEA, que é a
Food
instância
Security and Nutrition
responsável pela
Board,
articulação entre o
CONSEA,
governo e a sociedade civil. E, por fim,
responsible
pelas
for
conferências de
articulating
segurança
the relationship
alimentar e
between the
nutricional.
government and civil society,
A
and the
estrutura
Conference
nacional ela é
on Food
refletida
Security and
tanto no nível estadual quanto no
Nutrition.
nível municipal.
This
E
is
uma
at
vez
the state
aderidos ao
and the
sistema,
city
os
level.
governos subnacionais
And
precisam
once
manter
in
essas
the
instâncias
system,
instaladas e em
subnational governments
funcionamento para a
need
garantia da política nacional de segurança
these
alimentar e nutricional.
agencies
Considerando esse
up and
contexto,
running
a
to
estratégia
guarantee
Alimenta
food
Cidades ela
security
foi
and nutrition.
construída e
Alimenta
aprovada na coesão
Cidades
nacional
was built and approved at the national level through an executive order supported by the municipal CAISAMs and CONSEAs. The Alimenta Cidades will guide urban food agenda for all cities. We have selected 60 priority cities to receive technical and institutional support from the federal government in this first stage. The selection of these cities applied prioritization criteria, and today we're applying actions in those cities with the 64 million people. That is 30% of the Brazilian population. The first cycle between 24, 25, and 2026 like to push federal actions, plus actions already implemented by the different cities and innovative initiatives considering the specific context of each territory. These actions may be supported by 8 axes: supply and availability of healthy food, in the public and private sector of food security and nutrition, the promotion of urban food environments, promoting healthy food, education actions, production of healthy and sustainable food in the cities and surroundings, and a reduction of food loss and waste, so that cities for cities to receive this support. We have 2 main actions. Number 1, through the establishing of this strategy with focal points, people responsible for implementing this strategy locally with an ongoing dialogue with the federal government. Should be noted that CAISANs, local CAISANs, acted in identifying these stakeholders, these players, have been in a governance option for the implementation of the strategy. After that, some support organizations were hired, were outsourced to support cities. Those 2 organizations supported the cities and carried out a diagnosis of the situation, the status of each city, to build the baseline of the strategy, and a diagnosis to define the maturity level of the peri-urban region. The result of the diagnosis led to 40 on-site workshops so far. The idea is to share cases and set the priorities for each territory. Later May, cities will complete their on-site in-person workshops. These workshops have allowed to learn very inspiring experiences carried out by cities, which may be replicated through national actions. It is important to emphasize, though, that besides the technical support, the federal government developed a set of tools to support a strategic implementation at a city level. We have Alimenta Cidades platform, which is one of the examples, and the idea is to guide public policies. We also have the guidelines for the implementation of the strategy drafted by local government and a platform used for communicating the initiatives and sharing of experiences. Next steps have to do with 4 main actions. First is the supporting.
Could you tell us the next steps?
The preparation of the action
tell us the next step
map.
In roughly 1 minute more. Thank you so much, Kiliane.
Ok, já estou finalizando. Bom, então os próximos passos
I'm about to finish my presentation. The next steps, as I was saying, have to do with the support for the preparation of the plan. That is, setting the actions that will be implemented in the first cycle, then the technical financial support in order to realize those actions, as well as the monitoring after 12 months and 24 months of the initial diagnosis, and the urban network of healthy food. Federal government considers that the greatest challenges of the initiative were the following: the mobilization and adhesion of cities, and the lack of co-funding, and the guarantee of social engagement at the local level. Main challenges were the lack of dialogue among sectors, the lack of knowledge on the multiple actions, data, and results of local action, and the difficulty of mobilizing sectors involved in the urban food agenda. On the other hand, despite intersectorality, which is a challenge, the fact that having a subnational governance system, which was acknowledged and strengthened in Brazil, allowed for the engagement of stakeholders, intersectoral articulation, and the cities could participate with these programs, such as the case of the programs that where the different cities joined. It's important to note that local governments may receive benefits with the diagnosis in order to monitor public policies and have them implemented. Thinking of offering access to healthy and adequate product. We also like to say that other cities are interested in participating in the process, and because of that, we will be adding Brazilian provinces in the strategy, and that these may be extended to over 1,000 cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kiliani, for really detailing how this experience of Brazil started from the census, and for really understanding what was the reality in cities, and that led, so the fact that evidence led to realizing what was the food security and poverty challenges really peculiar to cities. And then how I think your experience speaks to the fact that you also tried to localize, let's say, what was CISAN, what was the national strategy, into the grounded into the reality of the cities through these workshops, this platform where cities could also have a say. One very interesting point that I hope we can return upon in the dialogue that will follow is the intersectoriality, but especially the focus on education. You mentioned a couple of times education, so I really would like to see how education links to food security, nutrition, economic reforms that you are planning in cities. And then you mentioned funding, and I know that our colleagues in Ethiopia have been working on resource mobilization and funding. That was also, of course, as you can imagine, a challenge there. So now this gives me the link also to move to Mr. Feseha Tekele, that is going to talk about our third focus experience of today from Ethiopia. Mr. Tekele brings to the table more than 29 years of experience in the field of agriculture, nutrition, irrigation, pastoral development, environmental rehabilitation. And he builds on this very multifaceted expertise to serve now in the Ministry of Health of Ethiopia as Senior Special Advisor to the Sekota Declaration. This is a very ambitious program that aims to end child stunting in Ethiopia. So, Mr. Feseha, the Sekota Declaration has put in place a comprehensive governance structure to address child stunting as a multidimensional problem through coordination, leadership at various levels. And you are now in the second phase of implementation. So I would like to know how you've build on the learning of phase one, and really what you can tell us about the most impactful governance innovations. Sorry, what are the most impactful governance innovations in terms of local delivery and mobilizing resources? So what did you learn from phase one in terms of mobilizing resources and dealing with local delivery? What were the impactful governance innovations that you are bringing forward in phase two now? You also have 8 to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura, for the nice introduction. I think good morning and good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. I am talking about the Quota Declaration. In fact, the Quota Declaration is a government commitment to end stunting in children under 2 by the year 2030. In fact, it is unveiled during the Finance for Development conference conducted in Addis Ababa in 2015. So Sakota is named after a small town called Sakota. In fact, their ministers and as well as regional presidents have met
Mr. Feseha, I think we lost connection.
Have a 15 years roadmap divided into 3 phases. In fact, the first phase is already completed. It was started in 2016 and completed in 2020. And now we are
I think we lost Mr. Feseha. No, you're still there. Okay, could we try maybe, Mr. Feseha, we don't hear you anymore. You're muted. You are on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
the audio is a little bit sketchy. The connection is not.
Okay, it was
Let's
a connection.
Try again.
Okay. Let me. Okay. The declaration is an innovative government commitment to end stunting in children under 2. There, the ministers and regional presidents have met to prevent stunting in children.
Could you put off your video maybe? Let's see if it uses less bandwidth.
Amounting around 7.9 million by the year 2030. The program is divided into 3 phases. The first phase is called the innovation phase, which is already implemented in 40 Sakota Declaration Waradas, and from 2016 up to 2020. And then now we are in an expansion phase, implementing the program in 334 waradas, and it will be completed by 2025. Then the final phase is what you call it a scale-up phase that will be implemented from 2026 up to 2030. So during the first phase, what you call it a learning by doing phase, it was implemented in 40 high prevalence waradas, where there was high stunting prevalence, low social and so yeah.
Could you put off your video? Yes. Let's see if the audio becomes clearer.
Okay. Let me try. Okay. You want me to on or off the video?
It's okay as it is. Let's try again. Let's see if we can hear you better. So you were saying about the 3 phases. We heard until that.
Yeah. We have 3 phases. The first phase is the innovation phase. It was conducted from 2015 up to 2020. And then the expansion phase now, which is under implementation in 334 waradas. And then the final phase is a scale-up phase, which will be conducted from 2016 up to 2030. So Secota Declaration is a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder program, which mainly focused on improving dietary diversity of women and their children, using, what we call the 1,000 days of opportunity. In fact, that is the period from child consumption up to 2 years of age. So we adapt the effort so that, we mostly focus on nutrition value chains, starting from input up to consumptions. So it mainly envisage addressing the underlying cases of malnutrition. In fact, that is what we call disease and lack of care and hygiene. So that means various sectors have roles in the program by implementing specific and nutrition sensitive and nutrition smart infrastructure projects. So related to governance structure, in fact, previously it was operated under a food and nutrition governance system. What at federal level we have food and nutrition interministerial steering committee, and at regional level we are having a food and nutrition councils. In fact, there are around 40 ministers as part of this program in the steering committee, and this program was led by Deputy Prime Minister at federal level, and also at regional level by the presidents of the region. So related to the governance structure, especially the food and nutrition is not legally established, and there was no clear accountability mechanisms. So later on, with the emergence of fact, it is reorganized into food system and nutrition interministerial steering committee and food system and nutrition councils at regional levels. In fact, to manage 3 programs, that is the Secota as a food system transformation, as well as the food and nutrition strategy. In fact, Secota Declaration is a showcase for food and nutrition strategy. In fact, currently, all regions have established council regulations except one city administration. That is a good way to ensure accountability at all levels. In addition to the governance structures, in fact, we have what we call program delivery unit at federal and regional level. In fact, in 3 regions, we have program delivery units, and similar structures, what we call food and nutrition steering committee, is established at the other regions. So the program delivery unit is, in fact, it is a multidisciplinary team with high-skilled staff. In fact, mainly mandated to help political leaders stay focused on the delivery of key policy priorities. In fact, the delivery units are not implementing projects. It is not a program office. It is rather help sectors to deliver their activities. That is their roles and responsibility. In fact, the delivery units have key activities, key roles like setting up program targets, that is identifying key performance indicators that has high impact and low cost, also setting annual targets and measures through an innovative approach, what we call the costed plan. This is one of the first activity, and then ensuring multi-sectoral coordination among different stakeholders and partners was another role, and also problems. It is accountability to the Deputy Prime Minister is also another role and responsibility. Besides that, in fact, program delivery units are responsible to manage performances. In fact, what we do is we collect reports from the waradas, what we call districts, compile them, and using a scorecard, in fact, we present them into the biannual committee meetings for decision making. Another activity for delivery unit is resource mobilization. In fact, in the first 2 years, especially, we were having very bigger resources, but we are trying to mobilize from different partners, and using that resources, we have conducted a lot of awareness creation and social behavioral change communication activities. Also, we try, sectors to mainstream nutrition into their existing budget line. Within the existing budget line. For example, if a sector has a program in the promotion of in the production of some specific crops and nutrient-based specific crops, so we will tell them, to make it nutrition sensitive by incorporating, for example, consumption promotion, as well as incorporating cooking demonstration for the families. In such ways, we try to use the existing resources from the sector. But in 2018, what we did was we have arranged a learning journey for the ministers to visit the program areas. In fact, this creates a good opportunity for the ministers to see the daunting, challenging at ground level, talk to families with malnourished families, as well as well-nourished families, as well as to see activities at ground level done by the Sakota Declaration as well and the partners, and to hear the views of the communities. Then after that, in fact, they have already decided to allocate resources annually. So starting from then, the government is consistently allocating from 10 to 50 million annually. Another activity for the program delivery unit is designing and supporting the implementation of different innovation. In fact, we have different innovations. During the innovation phase, we were having and later on it is increased to 10. In fact, like what we call it the program delivery unit, the costed Warada-based plan, and the community lab, where communities prioritize, identify their problems and co-create solutions, and their what you call the agricultural innovation and technology centers, and the robust data management system as 1,000 days public movement. These are some of the innovations that we are implementing.
Great. If you could wrap up in the next minute, and then we will have time again to come back in the debate. Thank you.
Okay. Another is partnership. In fact, the Sakota Declaration works closely with different partners. In fact, we have different partners working with us, like Beacon Philanthropy, the Capital Project, UNICEF, WFP, FAO, and also other donors are closely working with us. We do have a resource mobilization strategy which we developed, and also we are closely working with Africa Development, a project called Multi-Sectoral Approach for Stunting Reduction Project, which is a 48.7 million USD project. So these are the activities that we are doing. In fact, with Sakota Declaration, we try to see the impacts. And as per the study conducted with Johns Hopkins University, during the innovation phase, we were able to reduce stunting by 2.6%. And also in the expansion phase, especially in 2022, in some areas, we were able to register 3.4% per annum reduction in stunting. That is, I think, a good achievement done by the declaration. These are, I think, our activities in brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fesea. Especially for emphasizing the need for this accountability mechanism that works not only at the ministerial level, but also at the regional level. And also, I appreciated how you mentioned, again, this kind of duality of top-down and bottom-up approach by, for example, mentioning that the program delivery unit developed a costed plan and annual reports that from the district then feed into the National Committee for Decision Making. So there is a kind of double channel of conversation, of discussion between the regional level, the local level, the Waredas, the district, and the ministries and the national structure. Also, the mention of the incorporation of interventions across existing budget line, in addition to the dedicated financing by the World Bank, by the ministry. I think it helps also diversify, let's say, the financial flow. That is always a problem, or like one of the key challenges that are mentioned in implementing governance. And this is bringing result. I mean, the Johns Hopkins University study that you mentioned is showing that stunting is decreasing annually of 2.6%. So it's working, and congratulations for this evidence of success. Okay, so I think we had a very rich overview of how all these actors at peri-urban, urban level, district level, regional level, national level are working across sectors, are working interdisciplinary in an interdisciplinary way to advance governance mechanisms for agri-food systems transformation. And I would like now to really turn the mic, give the floor to the audience, to the participants, to share their insights, their reflections, and further provoke, inspire our thinking. Also, we would like to know how what has been just shared resonates with what you are doing with governance mechanisms in other contexts. I want to acknowledge that we have with us all the other speakers that will also present their experiences in the next two following sessions. We have colleagues from Kenya, Ghana, New York, Ecuador, and Mexico that are with us. So I think it would be very important to hear how these experiences are resonating with what you do in your context. But first, we had three very important, useful questions from Indonesia in the Q&A. From Repa Kustipia. So I'm wondering if, Repa, you would like to take the microphone to get us started with this dialogue. You had a question for each of the speakers. If you could be brief in your question so that we can hear from the three speakers what are their reactions to this. Repa, if you cannot use the microphone, I will read your questions, but let me know if you would like to come on mic. Okay. You are muted from the organizer. Okay. Let me see if I can unmute you. Where are you? Yes, you should be unmuted. Can you try? All right, let me... No, it's not working. All right, so let me try and do a summary, let's say, of your questions. So Repa is wondering how, so in the case of Zavaja, in the case of Argentina, how was this participatory approach initiated? How did you reconcile the scientific knowledge with the more traditional one? And also a specific question on transparency of local taxation that was used for the farmers. There is also a question for Kiliani on the case of Brazil, the fact that she's just emphasizing that Brazil has built on CISAN and has shown success in maintaining food diversity, improving education and awareness. So how do you track inclusivity in connecting food with human rights and the right to adequate food? And so here again, the question of education that I was also asking to Kilian before, maybe you can go a bit more into that. And lastly, for Fiseha, she's asking, given the numerous factors influencing dietary patterns and nutritional status, how can we ensure that this intervention truly accommodate the local, social, and cultural context? Who would like to take the floor first?
¿Comienzo?
Yes, Guillermo, thank you so much.
Bueno, en primer lugar,
First of all,
¿cómo fue surgiendo? Por la problemática y la
it
discusión
started because of the
hubo
problem,
meses
because of
de
the discussion. There were
diálogo
months of dialogue with
distintos miembros de la comunidad.
multiple
Por eso,
community
primero fue
stakeholders.
una
So
transición
first, it was
en la cual
a transition where
estaba encima de los
the
productores
agronomists
y
were
también
working with
se analizó el
producers,
Zavalla
And in Sabaya, we built a map of the applications in the district with growers that had to notify when they had an application over and above 800 meters. So we have a record. We have a record keeping of all the applications, which allowed us to show communities and agroecologists that the amount of applications of agrochemicals were coming down. Our producers, with the growers, they provided us with the production data, production cost, and yields for each product. When there was an economic issue, we would support them, we would help them. So it was through processes that took years, but what we have seen is that to become agroecological, a profitable agroecological field, it takes about 3 to 4 years. There is a whole transition that has to do with the learning of the grower, of the crop. A field takes 3 to 4 years to become profitable. For transparency, the board, I mean, produced an ordinance or a piece of legislation where there is environmental tax. And the whole amount of this environmental tax is reallocated to producers. The cost of the environmental tax is very low. It's just 10% of the rate. It's not an abusive tax, not exceeding 10% of the CT tax. And 100% of that money is reallocated to specific projects of growers or producers.
Sí, Laura, si me permiten, muy cortito.
Sí.
Laura, if I may.
Para nosotros fue un
For us,
desafío
it was a real
cambiar
challenge
el
going
método de
from,
investigación, ¿no? Yo hablé de
changing the
investigación
research method.
participativa,
Participative
y eso
action, that's what
justamente
I refer
implica
to. And
entender
that
que
means
ante
understanding
fenómenos
that
tan complejos
in
ya no es
situations,
suficiente
challenging
con la
situations,
investigación disciplinar,
and
ni siquiera es suficiente con la
discipline-based
investigación
research is not
interdisciplinar.
enough, or
Hay
even
que avanzar hacia una
interdisciplinary research is
investigación
not enough. We have to go
transdisciplinar.
to a
Y la
transdisciplinary
transdisciplina justamente implica
approach,
tener
and that
un enfoque
means
sistémico,
having a
global,
system-wide
holística,
approach, a
donde es
holistic
fundamental que
view,
la comunidad
where
científica
scientific
reconozca
community
y
has to
legitime
acknowledge
el valor de los
and validate
conocimientos que se
the
producen por
knowledge,
fuera de la
the
ciencia.
value of the
Es
knowledge
decir,
outside
reconocer
science.
la
That is,
experiencia y los
acknowledge the
conocimientos
experience and the
de los
knowledge
productores en primer
of
lugar,
growers,
¿sí?
first
Pero
of
también
all,
de todas las
but
personas que
also
vienen estando
the
involucradas
knowledge of all those
en esta
involved
evolución
in
de
this
este
so-called
sistema
evolution in
agroalimentario que se
this
está gestando
agri-food
y se está
system, which is
transformando.
in the making.
Es muy difícil
It's
para la
a real
universidad, porque
challenge
somos muy conservadores
for
aún,
the
lograr esas
academia. We're still
transformaciones
conservative.
en la
It's very
forma de
difficult
hacer
for us
ciencia.
academia to make a
Pero es la
transformation, to
única
make this
manera de
change in
poder
doing science. But
enfrentar
that's
los
the only
problemas
way to
globales
address
y
global
poder encontrar
problems and
algún tipo
finding
de solución.
some sort of a solution.
Gracias.
Thank you, Griselda. I cannot agree with you more about the slow pace of evolution and transformation in the making. And this relates well with what Guillermo was just saying, that it took years of negotiation. Like, it's a very longitudinal process to start seeing some changes. I'm wondering if Seha or Kiliani want to come back again.
Okay, may I come in?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. In fact, in the Sokotra Declaration, just to address the local contexts, we have two innovations. What you call, one is the so-called costed Warada-based plan. I think that is, a two-ways approach. It is from a top-down as well as a bottom-up approach. Where at federal level, we set up a high-impact, low-cost intervention, list of low-cost intervention, and within that framework, communities are able to identify their local solutions. Based on the
Say again, unfortunately, okay, let me try and deactivate your video. No.
lab. It is a multi-sectoral platform where communities are coming together and through the so-called three-step process, what we call it LRI model, learn, reflect, and innovate. Then communities will first identify their own problems, and then based on the problems, they try to prioritize their problems and then look for solution. And finally, they convert this solution into an action plans. So for these action plans, they mobilize the resources from the communities and from partners, as well as sources like even from the community. So in such a way, we try to address this, the local situations. Also, in fact, there are some initiatives in agriculture as well as in other sectors. For example, one of the main interventions is the introduction of indigenous and neglected crops is one of the priority areas. We give more focus on the force of Sokota declaration. Also, there are different issues. For example, if we take fasting, in Ethiopia, the fasting period is very extensive. For example, sometimes it reaches up to 200 days. So what we do is to address these situations, we are closely working priestess, priestess and godfathers, so that they can first understand of child nutrition as well as maternal nutrition, and based on that, their children's just to bring positive behavioral changes towards the consumption of nutrients.
Thank you. Thank you, Fiseha, for sharing about this learn, reflect, innovate approach from the community, starting from the community, and bringing again this human vision and the role of parents, of careholders in the child development that resonates with what is being said in the chat about really bringing a human vision to agri-food system transformation. Now to Kilian, there was also a question for you, so if you would like to address it.
Sim. Bom, em relação à questão do monitoramento, né? Nós temos o monitoramento da
monitoring, what I can say is that we have monitoring of the strategy. This monitoring will be conducted in those 60 cities, considering the baseline. After 12 months of the implementation, we will run an additional diagnosis, and after 24 months, we will do it again, so that we will be able to see how selected indicators have evolved in those cities. Now, back to CSAN, when cities and provinces say that they will be participating in the national food security system, those cities commit to producing a plan, a food security plan, and that's exactly what we monitor. The plan is for 3 to 4 years. It's 3 to 4 years, and what we do is to monitor throughout the whole period. On the other hand, at the federal level, we also have a national food security and nutrition plan, and as part of that, we have multiple initiatives and the involvement of many ministries. Not too long ago, we had the CSAN census. That's a research with municipalities, with the cities, to identify data that may be relevant, providing information on the food security situation of such cities. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we conducted such a survey, which is done with certain frequency, and that information is made available in the website of the Ministry of Social Development. Now, for education, you asked this question. Food and nutrition education is one of the pillars of the Alimentacidades strategy. We understand the importance of food and nutrition education to promote healthier food at schools. And as part of this, we are conducting specific actions, thinking of youth. And the idea being that these people can become multiplying stakeholders of the process. We are also paying close attention to the school environment. One of the things we offer to cities is the possibility of having a regulation for school environment, thinking of a model predefined, preset by the ministry, and that it becomes it's already a bill now. This is a way of supporting cities so that they can have their own regulations, so that they can minimize the use of ultra-processed food in the school environment, as well as promoting a healthier food consumption. I believe those were the 2 or 3 questions. Anything? One more other thing. Co-funding. The other in Brazil, we have 3 systems. First, this is the single social system, single healthcare system, and food security and nutrition system. The first 2, we have noises. But the first 2 are the 2 first implemented. We have a specific way to fund cities so that they can develop their actions. For CSAN, we still do not have our co-funding system. That's why our actions are conducted at the cities, within the cities, with specific programs. All right. See, we have the National Urban Farming Program. That such a program has its own resources, which are then supplied to municipalities to support local actions. That is how we work within the CSAN system. We have the multiple systems and programs, the different cities, always thinking of cities. Cities receive the resources as a result of a predefined, preset program, not from the national system of food and nutrition. At least this is the way it works right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kiliani, for replying to all these questions on monitoring, on funding, and all the challenges, let's say, that you've been navigating. I saw that there was a question from Claudia Ruiz, who was asking networking. We spoke about networking as key to be we spoke about networking being key for success. And she's asking who should be in charge, who should be responsible for networking, who should convince the others, let's say. And I'm wondering whether actually the colleagues that are online, maybe from Ghana, from Ecuador, from Mexico, that are also bringing their experience to the next sessions would like to take this. Otherwise, we will continue with our 3 speakers of today. So networking, who should push the other actor? Who should mobilize the other actor? Who should convince? Claudia, yes, go ahead.
Hola, buenos días. Muchas gracias por el
Good
uso del
morning.
micrófono.
Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me okay? I hope you do.
Bien, generalmente cuando
Okay,
haces un
when
proyecto,
you
quien
build a
elabora el proyecto
project,
tiene
the one
amor por el
producing the
proyecto
project
porque
has
su hijo
love and
entiende
passion.
la
It's
anchura,
it's
la
like children.
profundidad,
We understand the depth
la
and
altura del
breadth
proyecto, la
of
longitud
the
del proyecto.
project, the
Pero
length of
estás
the project,
ocupado en el
the
tema de tu
scope.
proyecto
But you're
y la
busy on your
implementación del
project and you're
mismo.
busy on the
Entonces, cuando
implementation.
estás formando ese
So
equipo de trabajo
when you're putting
y
together your
quieres
team
iniciar esta
and you
red,
want to
esta
start
vinculación,
this
¿quién sería la
network,
persona ideal en
who
las
would be the right
experiencias de los
person
ponentes
with the
que quiere ser
experience based
ideal
on your
para hacer
experience?
esta
Who's the
red de
right
trabajo
person
para ir al
to build this
gobierno, para
network,
presentar el
to
proyecto?
approach
¿Quién
the
sería
government,
esa
to
persona
submit a
ideal?
project?
Porque
Who
creo
would be
que
the
esa
ideal
persona
person? I
es
believe that
clave para
person,
establecer la
it's
red.
critical
Pero
to
de
build
eso
this
de ahí
network.
surge mi pregunta.
That's why my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Who would like to take it? Griselda has the hand up. Yes.
Sí, ¿qué tal? Gracias, Claudia, por la pregunta.
Thank you, Claudia, for your question.
Bueno, en la experiencia nuestra,
In our experience, in our case, leadership is important.
Más allá de que hay personas que tienen
Or
un poder legítimo,
people with a legitimate power because of, I don't know, the organizations they're part of. But it is also important to have those persons that will legitimize their power to exercise leadership. But of course, such a leadership requires very peculiar characteristics. Let me go back then. The importance of the values, professional ethics. I mean, we need a leadership that will come to strengthen horizontal work, building of networks, where everyone has some sort of or level of empowerment, facilitating engagement, participation, involvement, dialogue, building trust, build trust on themselves, the trust that they are able to move forward with those transformations. That, I believe, it's critical. But again, those are qualities that certain people own. Some qualities are been built throughout their life or they were born with. But we have to acknowledge that there are certain training opportunities that will make those leadership to work better and better. Those are people that can build bridges, that can facilitate dialogue, that can empower those who are more vulnerable to these type of problems.
Thank you, Griselda, for bringing it also to the empowerment piece. It's not just a question of networking, but who has the power to take to have a voice, let's say. Kilian, I think you had a hand up. Do you want to address also the question on networking? Yes, please, go ahead.
En el caso nuestro, principalmente,
You see, in our case,
los liderazgos lo va tomando los mismos miembros de la comunidad.
Leadership has been taken on by the members of the community through their experience. They have started seeing the transformation and they talk to others about their own improvements. So leadership changes from one hand to the other, those that are gaining the experience. At the beginning, the farmers, the producers who were against this change to the agroecological practices are now the main advocates. They're sharing their experience, they're sharing their own transformation. So at the beginning, we help them through the municipality, but then the leadership is in the hands of the producers by sharing their own experience.
Maybe may I add?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
I think in the case of Sakota Declaration, I think from our learning experience, two things are very important. I mean, the first one is political leadership. If a program is fully owned by the leadership, and if there is a leadership, then there is a high possibility that different partners will be willing to work together. This is one area. And the other point is, I think there should be some responsible organ to handle, this partnership and networking activity. For example, in our case, it is a program delivery unit. We are trying to approach different partners and arrange different forums. And also we develop different proposals. And by doing such activities, we were able to create a different networking with different partners. Also, we try to create visibilities. Whatever you achieve, if it is, worth investing, and if it started to bring changes, partners and many stakeholders can be willing to work with you. So these are the milestones for establishing a good networking and partnership.
Thank you. Thank you. Leadership and legitimacy and having a responsible, dedicated organ to this networking and coordination. Thank you. So I see that Harry has the hand up, and you will hear more from him in the case of Ghana in the next session. But I wanted to know if you have an answer to the question that was posed or a further question for the group today?
I
Over
was
to you,
going to
Harry.
give an answer. I think ethically that's made my point very clear. Normally, in situations like this, there are the people who own the issues that are up, and most often we collaborate with other stakeholders who have mandates to address some of them. So when it comes to leadership and networking, based on your rules, expertise, and then what you bring on board as a stakeholder, you will have to take that responsibility to make sure that solutions are found to situations that arise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this other perspective of leadership as like navigating what is emerging, let's say, from the different stakeholder or the different interest. Okay, so I think we had a number of answers to the question on networking, and there was also and now, because some of you mentioned also the people, like the different, bringing different interests, different perspectives. I would like to go to Isabel from Ecuador, who is asking about the role of women in particular. I wonder if, Isabel, you want to take the floor to ask the questions or share more from the Ecuadorian perspective as well. Isabel, can you hear us? Otherwise, I will just read your question out loud. And then, Anna, I will come to you next because you're bringing up a very important point as well. Okay, Isabel, I can't hear you. So, okay, the question from Isabel was regarding the Argentinian case, but I guess this can be also applicable to other cases again. How was women's work made visible, considering that women and sustainable production almost always go hand in hand? Can we talk about the gender perspective? And I'm wondering, I saw Kilian has the hand up, so I don't know if it's an old hand or...
Laura, eu gostaria de responder a pergunta anterior.
You responded already. Okay, so Guillermo.
Nosotros, la mujer, nosotros es
In our
importante el
case,
aspecto de género,
gender perspective and women are very important. The agroecological products that are certified by the province always has a gender approach. There is a women's cooperative that was put together, and what they collect after sales, 80% is distributed among women who work, and that other 20% is for the municipalities for leasing the facilities. So gender approach is giving women the possibility of participating through work. We think that the way of empowering women is by providing them with tools, not only just being there, but also giving them the economic support. Because in gender approach, people seem to forget that they are also the household leaders. So this is a women's cooperative that we have put together, only made up of women.
Great. Perfect. So thank you for bringing also this this important gender perspective, and we will go much more in depth into also the power imbalances and asymmetries in the next seminar. So please stay tuned. But now there are a couple of questions in the chat about really like how do we navigate problems of, let's say, changing political priorities, political tensions, especially in periods like changes of government, elections. So this kind of, how do we ensure this continuity in environments where political stability is a bit low, is a bit decreasing. Is there anyone that would like to come in with this? Griselda, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if
Sí,
it's on
¿qué
the
tal? En el caso concreto, dale, Guillermo. Habla vos.
Yes, go ahead, Guillermo. Well, in our particular case, when policies belong to the community, to their leaders, what we do is that this helps to go beyond the political election. So that's what's helpful. When the community takes ownership of the problem, and it ends up being a process rather than a problem. That's something that the people have learned. So there's no discussion whatsoever as to the agroecological policies in our community. It's just not part of the agenda. And that is because the community as a whole has come to this consensus. And if I may add to what has just been said, also the community, the way that the municipality has managed this, helps to develop cooperatives. The Biofabrica is a cooperative. So going from depending on the state, even if it's a regional state, and moving into a cooperative is a strategy in itself, and that helps quite a lot.
So this I think what you are bringing here is also the concept of distributing leadership. So that is not just owned by the political, let's say, powers, but it's also like the women, for example, in the cooperative have power, or other actors in the cooperative have power to bring the intervention forward. So it's like kind of co-owned, and this kind of distribution of power makes sure that there is continuity. And I hope this addresses the questions from the forum. From the fora. Kiliani, sorry, I tried to interpret Portuguese without knowing Portuguese. I don't know why. So over to you again. Sorry.
Ok, sem problemas. Bom, retomando as três últimas
Well, that's
perguntas,
not a problem. But taking on the last three questions that have been asked, I would like to answer because I believe that there are points of interest that Brazil can share. When it comes to networking, establishing networking in the Alimenta Cidades strategy, we have contact with 60 different municipalities, and we have established a communication process using WhatsApp, using email, online meetings, face-to-face meetings too. And what we have seen is that although we started with very specific focus groups, these has expanded in the different municipalities based on local actions. Hence, the Alimenta Cidades network nowadays is actually quite vast. I was in a meeting just the other day, and when I got there, all the people had T-shirts with the Alimenta Cidades logo printed on them. They were wearing those in the meetings. That just goes to show that they are getting ownership of this process, that they are really, truly participating. There's also training through web seminars that are held frequently, addressing different topics. There's also information on the federal government programs, guidelines on how they can join those programs, because oftentimes that information does not go down to the users. And lastly, women's. In this new cycle of public policies in Brazil, all the policies have, I don't know if it's a positions or quotas, but at least a small specific percentage for women to participate in them. We have the Quintales Productivo programs, the national program for urban agriculture, and as part of the regulation, they state women's a priority. And that is then by decree or even by law established in Brazil. In terms of political changes and how we can guarantee the continuity of the public policy, well, in the case of Brazil, recently we have been undergoing this process because at the end of 2024, we had the elections for mayors. Or the elections for mayor was held, and with that, many changes came about in many cases. Many cities that had already joined the Alimenta Ciudades platform had to renegotiate their participation because administration changed. And what we realized is that when the technical team remains, when there's a solid technical team, people start advocating for the work that has been done, and that helps in continuity. We started with 60 cities, and now we have 59 that have been participating since the beginning. 59 cities where we have been able to move forward. Only one left due to the change in administration. We were not able to join them. Many underwent municipal political changes, but the strategy has remained, as you can see.
Thank you. Thank you for giving this other perspective on continuity, also from the tech building like solid technical team that can stay in the long term, let's say, independent from the political changes. There was a question on investment and the resource allocation. Just a second. It was asking about, okay, in terms of investment and resource allocation, often it is a matter of competition between sectors or actors. What was critical in your experience to ensure coordination and allocation of resources? I think already Fesea started to respond to this, and I'm wondering if there are other insights as well.
Yeah. In fact, in Sakota Declaration, we have, as I already mentioned, especially there are 6 major proposed sectors that is involving in the implementation of the program. So in fact, at the beginning of the program, there was resource conflict. So what we do is, first of all, we try to sort out which interventions on stunting. Our main goal is reducing the stunting. So, in fact, there are different studies conducted as with local experiences. So, based on that experiences, we try to come up a very key interventions that have high impact in reducing the stunting. So, based on that, we define our. So, when we allocate resources, also we try to give more focus for those areas that have high impact interventions. In fact, with list method, especially in the first year, we have done an impact evaluation using a list method, what you call it a life safe tool method. So with that method, we identified which interventions have high impact in reducing stunting. For example, one of the major interventions that was identified was complementary feeding. For example, with complementary feeding, it was possible to bring about some stunting reductions. And then comes the social behavioral change communication and the supplementation, as well as provision of clean water supply. So based on these priorities and advantages, especially the program delivery is the way that we are doing. And seeing the impacts and also observing, the outcomes of the program. Nowadays already agreed on the portion of resources into different sectors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Feseha. So I think we are nearing the end of our session, and I think I will take the last question that was just shared by Vermifarm in the chat. How are the governance systems from across the various case studies designed to remain flexible yet accountable in the face of emerging challenges like climate change, migration, and youth employment? It's a very broad question. So I'm wondering if you can share one last key takeaway building on this question. How are governance systems designed to remain flexible yet accountable in the face of these global challenges? Very good question and very not easy to address, but maybe we can end on this note. Grisel, Guillermo, go ahead.
Para nosotros, bueno, para nosotros, con respecto a los cambios
For us,
climáticos,
regarding, for example, climate change, we had to talk directly to the producers to see which is the best product that adapts to that land. In Argentina, 2023 and 2024 underwent a very important drought. And with the study of the different crops, we saw which one better adapted to those climate conditions. So our model is totally flexible and it's agreed upon with the producers themselves. Also, with the creation of the cooperatives, this helps us with unemployment, and this allows us, as I was saying, to put together the cooperatives so that people can have a working possibility. And when we start industrializing these agricultural products, we can create a working position. So we go from producing wheat, and now we have pastas, a fresh pasta. We are creating bread at a bakery, and this allows us then to provide employment, especially the people who are working in the cooperatives, whether it be in the bio factory as well as in the pasta factory, are mostly women. And that helps us then, when working directly with the producer, to adapt to climate change. And that is why, well, as I was saying, we went through a drought, and we have the evidence that agroecological production was more profitable during the drought than a traditional crop.
Sí, yo, si me permiten, agregaría también para responder la pregunta.
Let me add, if I may. One of the key things in these governance processes led by Zavalla city, we need to understand that governance, first of all, is articulating public and private. In Argentina, some administrations have made public seeing the private side as a threat, even among communities. So we need to build political strategy which are not fragmented, which are comprehensive, encompassing, so to speak, articulating public and private. And that will offer more flexibility to the design and implementation of such policies. Articulating the interest of all stakeholders is not always easy, aiming at a common good, but both the public and private worlds have to be part of this policy.
Thank you. Thank you. Flexibility and accountability in articulating the private and public sector interest. Thank you. Kiliani, over to you.
Obrigada. Bom, em relação ao Brasil, o Ministério do Meio Ambiente está trabalhando
in Brazil, the Ministry of Environment is working, preparing a plan where we will have the strategy to mitigate the climate changes. And as part of that national plan, there are sectoral plans, and one of them is food security and nutrition plan. And as part of that, there are certain actions. One of them is about to be completed. Just a framework on food and climate systems. This is something that I may share with you, this document, I mean, so that you can actually see what are the actions included as part of this framework.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think what is important that you are all speaking about is again, going back to intersectionality and the fact that, as we said at the beginning, governance is about effective, inclusive, collective action from a broad range of public, private stakeholders across agri-food systems. So how do we bring these stakeholders together? How do we ensure that there is continuity in the actions? How do we build trust and build accountability so that these processes can continue in the long term? I think these are some of my takeaways, together with the importance of going back to the human element, to the human values that really can make these sessions, this relationship strong and sustainable, let's say. I particularly liked also what was mentioned in terms of interventions that are done. I think Claudia was mentioning, like the passion and being proud of this of what we are promoting, but at the same time without forgetting that, of course, we need resources, we need legitimacy, we need institutional commitment for these sessions to be, for these interventions to be sustainable. And I see that Milagros has the hand up, and that will be the last point that we take today. Over to you.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I'm Milagros. I work at the New York City Mayor's Office of Food Policy. Just really fascinating to hear all the examples from Santa Fe, Brazil, and Ethiopia. I think something that you all showed is like the need to like negotiate and be flexible with like what are the things that we're working towards. Thinking about what are the common grounds and what are the things that we're not going to agree on, and that's fine, but that doesn't prevent us from working together or the things that we do care about. I think that is something really important. We all in our jobs have our own convictions and values and strategic initiatives that we're always chasing after. But really working with other folks, whether it is in the case of Brazil, cities and the national level, whether it is in Ethiopia with developer partners and the state, or even in Argentina with producers and citizens. I just think these are just so very inspirational examples of like, there is common ground. And we just have to really find it and approach this collaborations with a lot of humility. So really thank you for these great examples.
Brilliant, Milagros. I think that was the perfect ending to this session, reminding us, okay, how do we find flexibility in looking for a common ground, in looking for a common vision that we can all pursue together, and approaching this work with humility and with the human values that we heard loud and clear from our colleagues today. So I think we have reached the end of our session today. As I said, this is just the first of a three-part series, and what we really would help us is if you could take a few minutes to fill the feedback form that has been just shared in the chat. And then again, we invite you back to the second session on the 28th of May. That will be about shifting the balance, empowering voices in agri-food decision making, which I think we already, in a way, started to discuss today, and we will go deeper at the end of May. It will feature experiences from Ecuador, Ghana, and India. From some of these people you've already heard briefly today, and we will go deeper into their experiences. But really, I hope we can continue discussing these inspiring approaches, these nuggets. Someone wrote in the chat first that we are like planting seeds of humanity and giving a face and giving like human face to these governance processes that sometimes appear intangible. So thank you everyone for allowing this conversation. Thank you everyone for allowing for reflection from so many perspectives from all around the world. And again, if you could take a moment to fill the feedback form, that would be very useful for us to continue making this session useful for all of you. Thank you, Guillermo, Griselda, Kiliani, Fiseha, all the organizing team that was behind the scene working very hard for this session, and the interpreters that made us possible to connect across the world. I'm looking really forward to seeing you on the 28th of May.